And by textual sources, I don't mean a few words carved into stone. I mean lengthy works of literature, usually written first on parchment and then later copied onto paper and made into books. This is where things get a bit tricky because when it comes to ancient history, we often get textual sources that differ from one another when it comes to what actually happened. This leads some people to conclude that there's no way of knowing the truth and that it's just a matter of arbitrarily choosing who you want to believe. Let's now turn our attention to Moses and go through these 5 questions again, this time with Moses in mind. But first, I'd like to take this opportunity to point out that in addition to being a history educator, I also happen to be Jewish. So if you don't like my conclusions, please don't assume that I came to these conclusions simply because I'm anti-religious. 'Cause, well, I'm not. Anyway, the oldest source we have for the life of Moses is, as you might have guessed, the Bible. In particular, the Torah, which refers to the first 5 books of the Bible. According to the Torah, Moses was born in Egypt during a time when his people, the Israelites, were slaves there. As a baby, Moses was placed in a basket in the Nile River, where he was then found by one of Pharaoh's daughters. After growing up in the royal palace, Moses then commits murder as an adult and has to escape to the land of Midian, where he then has a spiritual experience in which God speaks to him in the form of a burning bush. There, God instructs Moses to return to Egypt and to lead his enslaved people out of that country and into Canaan, the promised land, which he then does after God sends a series of 10 plagues on Egypt. From there, we get the famous parting of the Red Sea story, the receiving of the 10 Commandments, and the Israelites wandering in the desert for 40 years. At the end of the biblical account, Moses is not allowed to enter the promised land. So it is his successor Joshua that takes over and conquers most of the land of Canaan in a very dramatic fashion.